Almost that time. Almost that time. Because Hallmark is playing Christmas movies. So that means I can start watching Die Hard on a loop. Turning my car to Swiss cheese.
Gremlins is a Christmas movie too, right?
Exactly. Yes. Just Friends is a Christmas movie. One of my favorites. If you haven't seen it, Bloom, go watch it.
Okay. I will do that.
Oh my God, we're live. Let's do it.
You got a team, here's a word of the wise. You want to dominate your league? Go to Footballguys.
Football, I'm living in a fantasy. Football, got everybody mad at me. Football, cause every game I had to win. Football, I gotta be a champion. Football, I'm living in a fantasy.
It is part 2 of the Week 11 preview here on the Audible. It's Cecil, Lammey, it's Sigmund, Bloom, it's Carolina, it's Baltimore, it's Baker Mayfield back in the lineup, Bloom, and why that's a downgrade for your Panthers, except for maybe D'Onta Foreman?
Yeah. See, Baker Mayfield's like the opposite of Prozac, right? I don't know, too old of a reference, right? He's a depressant. He's not an antidepressant for offenses. So this could be good for Baltimore. That applies to you if you have DJ Moore and you're wondering if you're going to play DJ Moore this week. Again, it's fantasy football. And fantasy football this year means starting players you shouldn't start or don't want to start. So you might still play DJ Moore. But it even comes back to D'Onta Foreman. You might not have a better option at running back 2 than D'Onta Foreman. It won't be surprising if this is a floor game. I'm not saying that P.J. Walker breathed life into this offense, but at least for a little bit, it seemed like the burdens of underperforming expectations weren't following them into these games after the trade of Christian McCaffrey. So, yeah, you play Foreman knowing you might only get 10 carries for 34 yards and a catch for 3 yards. You play DJ Moore if you have to. You might only get 3 catches for 34 yards or something like that. The ceiling game is just not in play with DJ Moore, with Baker Mayfield. We'll see about the development of Terrace Marshall. But yeah, Carolina's playing out the string here. Carolina is turning the page, and Baltimore's not. See, so I think Baltimore internally, they have to be talking about themselves as a Super Bowl candidate. Is there a Super Bowl? Is there even such thing as a Super Bowl favorite right now in the NFL on either side of the bracket?
Do you want to be named that? This feels, speaking of bracket, Bloom, doesn't this feel like March Madness? We're like, they're the number one. They get beat.
Yeah.
You kind of don't. You kind of want to be, well, kind of like Kansas City, like really good. Sure. Everyone else is talking about Buffalo. Maybe that's changing though, Bloom, right?
Yeah.
People should be talking about Baltimore.
Maybe people should be. Remember, they got Roquan Smith. Remember that? They're getting a bunch of players back. Injured players back, Tyus Bowser, David Ohio. We're going to see about all these players. So Baltimore, take care of business. We can start talking about you in that Super Bowl conversation.
And if you're Trace Godfrey driving around from H-Town to Dallas, hands on the wheel, eyes on that road, buddy. Hands on the wheel, eyes on that road. Baltimore's got their eyes on the prize, and the eyes including more Gus Edwards. Like, okay. And then Lamar Jackson flourishing against Carolina, we should be able to see that. And we should be able to see Mark Andrews. Again, we're recording Thursday morning, the kind of reports. And there were 2 reports by the same person. I think it was Jamison Hensley, Bloom. So I'm doing the news yesterday. It's like Mark Andrews isn't practicing. So I write up a report like, hey, that means Isaiah Likely, and we'll watch his status and check back Friday, blah, 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 blah. Hours later, same report, same reporter, hey, Mark Andrews did practice. I'm like, oh, God, okay. Erase everything, go back. Like, we still might see Isaiah Likely a little bit more, but it seems like from the latest contradictory report that Mark Andrews is going to be available.
Yeah, and it's simple fantasy-wise. If he's active, you play him. Now, the Ravens, because they're only playing the Panthers, you don't want to take a team too lightly. They don't have to rush Mark Andrews back out there. We'll see. You want to see him getting in full practices out of the bye. He's got a couple of injuries. Isaiah Likely, keep him on waiver wire speed dial. Gus Edwards looks more likely to play. I think Edwards is more of a what the heck flex because you're going to see Kenyon Drake, a little bit of Justice Hill. I do think you're seeing this team convert back to 35 rush attempts a game, 40 rush attempts a game. Right. So you're lowering expectations for everybody in the passing game. There's just not a passing game play here outside of Mark Andrews. Devin Duvernay is a good player, but he's not going to get the opportunity or consistent enough opportunity, even though he could hit. He's a classic sleeper of the week, what the heck flex in every week because of his ability, because this offense can be explosive. But I think, especially in this game, they're going to be just fine grinding it out. I think with Lamar Jackson, as long as things don't get off track, we're looking at 20, 25 pass attempts as the game
Maximum,
plan.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be how it is going forward for this Baltimore team. And we'll see. I think Baltimore, you can draw a parallel between Baltimore and Kansas City, because remember, would have been 5-0, except for they'd lost 2 games where they were only trailing on the last play of the game. I mean, they early in the season, they looked like a really good team, and they've had some turbulence, but they've come out of that looking like a resilient team. And that isn't necessarily something they've been in the playoffs so far in the Lamar Jackson era. So, as far as a yardstick for this week, they should be able to, coming out of the bye, to take care of this one handily.
Take care of business. Washington and Houston is the next game we're going to take care of business with. And Washington is still going to be Taylor Heineke playing YOLO ball, which is fine. When Carson Wentz comes in, it's like the Baker Mayfield effect, right? Like, if he even comes in. Because if they keep winning with Taylor Heineke, why change it? I'm getting a lot of Antonio Gibson questions. Jahan Dotson is back, which complicates some things. And it's Taylor Heineke. So we know he's going to throw it up for Scary Terry. And what else is he going to do? I don't know. Lead him to a win on the road against Houston? Sounds about right.
Yeah. Well, you can see, and Cecil, you can see with Taylor Heineke the effect a quarterback's personality has, or the connection or relationship the quarterback has with the team. Because Taylor Heineke doesn't offer anything that Carson Wentz doesn't have. I mean, let's face it. Taylor Heineke is like a bargain budget version of Carson Wentz, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's mobile. He will try to make some YOLO plays. He's not necessarily a quarterback you're going to build a structured offense around. He's going to give you a chance to win. He's going to give you a chance to pull a Houdini on some plays. He's going to unlock some of the value of your receivers downfield, but he also can be the reason you lose the game. Now, that being said, other than Alex Smith, no Washington quarterback in the recent Washington era has led them to as many wins. So since, RG3 and everything fell apart, Kirk Cousins, since the Kirk Cousins era ended, Taylor Heineke and Alex Smith, this team can actually win with that quarterback play. It looks like they're going to keep Heineke in, and we'll see. You lose to Houston, maybe you reevaluate that. Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson are both running back 2s here. Gibson can contribute in the passing game. Gibson has more of a big play upside. Robinson, as we can see, if they can control the ball, they're going to try to give him 20 or 25 carries and maybe get a touchdown. So they're both low ceiling running back 2s. Of course, you're going to continue to play Terry McLaurin. But more than anything, Cease, this is a game that may continue to announce that Washington's here. Because you look at the NFC, you've got Philly, Dallas. Let's hope that the Giants keep it up. That's 3. Minnesota, that's 4. Tampa Bay, that's 5. 1 of Seattle or San Francisco, that's 6. So there's one more team left. It could be San Francisco. It could be Washington. Washington's right there. Mm-hmm. It could be Green Bay if they get on a hot streak. I think that's what we're looking at. Maybe Arizona, probably not. So Washington's absolutely. Ron Rivera got this team playing well. They can be, we talk about the Jets, we talk about the Giants as these surprise playoff teams. Washington says, what about us?
What about us?
Yeah.
And why not us? And why not try to not speak when I'm drinking coffee at the same time? But either way, Houston side, Damian Pierce.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you desperate enough to start Nico Collins?
Yeah.
Are you hoping that Brandon Cooks is happy this week? Like, okay, if it's the Texans side, and I guess we'll watch if we haven't heard hardly anything about Benjamin after he was picked up.
Right.
So it's like, okay, is he going to get mixed in? A little, like what's that look like? It's still mostly a Damian Pierce take here.
Yeah, I think so. I think Pierce has got to stay in, and until we see Benjamin really cut into his value, and I don't expect that to happen. And we may see it happen, then we'll go back and revise the following week. But Pierce has to be in as a strong running back 2 for your team. And Nico Collins, I like. He had 10 targets last week. He ran a terrific route. See, it's one of the more underrated things in the NFL wide receiver play. It's being able to create separation in the red zone. It's one thing to create separation when teams are playing 1st and 10 and just sitting on their heels and keeping everything in front of them. It's another thing whenever you only have that compressed 15, 20, 25 yards to work with, including the whole end zone, and you have to create separation in that area. Nico Collins was able to do that last week on his touchdown. And I think we may see Nico Collins, especially with Brandon Cooks falling out of favor with this team. He's on his way out the door. Come on, they should have traded him. Like,
yeah.
They should have.
It's almost
whatever,
like they spite held on to him.
Right. Whatever Dallas's last offer was, they should have taken that offer. They should have been like, okay, that's fine. We'll take that, because I think that the relationship with Cooks and the team is basically broken. Not that it can't be mended, but for what? Because this team is rebuilding. And by the time they get good, Brandon Cooks isn't going to be part of that. Nico Collins could be. Nico Collins absolutely could be. And Nico Collins could be part of a winning team down the stretch for you, because Houston's going to be playing from behind. And I think you're seeing Collins turn into a budding number one receiver and maybe a budding every week play in fantasy football.
Fantasy football abounds. Next up, well, maybe the opposite of that. When we talk about Raiders versus Broncos, the battle of the two worst coaches in the National Football League. One's a jerk and one's happy fun baby star. And I've been around them both, and they both stink. So there you go. Smell like sulfur. The Raiders side of things is Josh Jacobs going to do it again. Last time they played against Denver, he had a career high 144 yards rushing. Pretty simple. Devontae Adams becomes a bit more puzzling this week, Bloom, because it's Pat Surtain. Pat Surtain, last time out, like Devontae got some catches. He didn't get any yards. So, okay, PPR formats, are you comfortable with a 4 for 50 stat line? And that might be pushing it, Bloom. Like, I don't know where you have Adams projected this week. I suppose I could look. But, like, okay, Devontae Adams is going to be on Pat Surtain. So, 4 for 30, 5 for 45, like some sort of stat line like that is what you could be expecting from Derek Carr throwing to his buddy Devontae Adams. He'll be crying to Mac Hollins all the time. So there are other players, a Foster Moreau, right? We saw it with Chiggy, getting Chiggy with it last week against Denver. They still can't stop tight ends. So it's Jacobs, it's Mac Hollins, it's Foster Moreau, and then the Adams puzzle of like, okay, you're still starting him. It's Devontae Adams, but you better be ready for a floor week, not a ceiling week.
Yeah, maybe not a game where you're going to go with Devontae Adams and DFS. Now, the first time around, Adams did have 9 for 101. So that's enough. Like you said, no breaking out for any big plays, not going to be a weak winner. And you hope, you don't assume rational coaching with Josh McDaniels, but you hope that they're going to move Adams around, scheme him open. Hunter Renfrow is not out there, so put him in the slot. Do some different things to get Pat Surtain on somebody else. This was the game, Cease. This is a rematch where Josh Jacobs broke out, where all of a sudden Vegas realized, hey, if we give this guy the ball 25 times a game, it increases our chances of winning. And Denver had no answer for him. So why would Vegas do anything different? Again, we don't want to read rational coaching or think that they're going to be reasonable acting on the information they already have. But you would think this is a Jacobs game. And Foster Moreau, well, you could do worse at tight end than Foster Moreau. And he got some red zone targets. And it's Denver, who's never the best at defending the tight end. But this is a sadness. Misery loves company bowl. Let's call this one. Because Denver fans might be feeling like it couldn't be worse than being a Denver fan. And then they look at the opposite sideline. They see Josh McDaniels. And they remember what it was like to root for the Broncos when Josh McDaniels was the coach. I guess Tim Tebow did give them a good moment. So I don't want to be too harsh on it.
That was at the end of his regime after it was already fired, though. Like,
right.
They were 6-0. I remember going on 9 News overtime with my friend Rod Mackey, and I was like, they're the best team in football. And I think they won one more game that year.
One more game. I think it was one more game. Yeah. So, yeah. So Denver, we'll see. I think that we can rule out this season having a happy ending. We can rule out Denver as a team that's going to somehow scrape their way to a playoff bid, but they're stuck with Russell Wilson. Are they stuck with Nathaniel Hackett? A win may make that a little more sticky.
Yeah, if they lose to Josh McDaniels, Nathaniel Hackett will get fired.
Yeah.
No Lassie bark.
Right. Like losing to Jeff Saturday. Well, wait, the Raiders already did that.
Right, exactly. But if you lose to the guy that everybody hates, in fact, there's some Broncos fans, air quotes, that are rooting for the Raiders because they want Nathaniel Hackett gone. Either way, I'm never going to tell you how to fan. Just, wow. Okay, this is where we're at. No KJ Hamler. Jerry Jeudy didn't practice yesterday. I'll head out to the facility. It's snowing today, Bloom. But so I'll head out to the facility as soon as this show's done. We'll see if Judy's out there at all. I watched Russell Wilson closely yesterday. Bloom, he's fine. He's fine. for all the like, why isn't Hackett, bootlegging and rolling out? Why are they in shotgun all the time? Oh, it's Russ's hamstring. Russ is banged up. No, he's not. He's fine. He's totally fine. I saw him before the London game when I was like, "Ooh, he's bad. That's bad. That looks bad." Like he's moving around fine. They'll still use a committee at running back, which will frustrate. Why are we talking about the Broncos? Like seriously, like maybe Sutton, maybe, but I look forward to seeing more of Kendall Hinton or even Jalen Virgil, and obviously Greg Dulcich on the tight end talk right now as well. But things aren't good in Denver, and I don't know. Listen, if your Broncos blow up on your bench, fine. At least then you can trust them. If not, I don't really want to start any Denver player.
Yeah. Maybe Cortland Sutton if Jerry Jeudy is out. I mean, the only thing that gives you a nudge here is it's the Raiders. Okay. Generally, Paris Campbell had some success against the Raiders. It's the Raiders. So outside of maybe the Lions, this is one of those teams that if you're in doubt and your guy's facing the Raiders, give it a shot. Give it a shot with Cortland Sutton. Give it a shot with Russ. Give it a shot with Russell Wilson. Hey, Matt Ryan got right against the Raiders, right? And Russell Wilson had a pretty big game. He had a rushing touchdown. He was pretty good in the first matchup with the Raiders. Now, that was a come-from-behind game script. Maybe it won't be the same if this is a defensive battle or if Denver's defense at home holds down the Raiders, corrals Josh Jacobs. And then you have Melvin Gordon and Latavius Murray. They're both what the heck flex plays. It's the Raiders, okay? Maybe this could be a game. See, this could be that 1 or 2 games that Denver, everything is realized for this game. Like this game looks like a game that happens in the middle of a season where Russell Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett and all this plan worked, right? And they're a playoff team and they're defending. I'm sorry, they're contending for the division and so on. Because the Raiders are miserable right now, and they're giving assurances that Josh McDaniels is going to remain the coach next year. Greg Dulcich, he's kind of on fantasy probation. Like you said, Cecil, if he goes off on your bench, then you have something. If he doesn't, then you'll know to move on. Maybe the rookie magic has worn off here.
And they tried last week. I know the stat line won't reflect that, but they tried to get him involved deep, and he doesn't know where to sit down in a zone. So of the 4 targets, 1 catch, but then the 3 basically drops. People blame it on Russ. Like, that's a bad throw. No, Dulcich didn't sit down. Like, just kid, sit down. And he didn't do that. And then one of the deep passes, Russ was off the mark.
Yeah. And so we're waiting. So magic. The only magic around this game, Cease, is that they got how many 60,000 people to pay to watch it.
Yeah, 77,542. How many no-shows are there going to be?
Yeah.
That's the question. All right, it's a Broncos show, but it's a Cowboys and Vikings show. NFC Championship preview? Yeah, maybe. I mean, this one's way more exciting. And Bloom, when you said the Giants, you kind of broke my heart a little bit earlier because you said, let's hope the Giants can keep this up. I was thinking more, let's hope the Cowboys can keep this up.
Yeah.
Forget the Giants are there, baby. They're good. Can the Cowboys keep this up? Now with more Ezekiel Elliott. Okay. All right. And then CeeDee Lamb and then the cast of thousands, which I guess you can pick from. Are they all our sleepers of the week?
Right.
Your Noah Browns, your Michael Gallups, your Dalton Schultzes.
Odell Beckham, one of these days.
I
think it was Clarence Hill, one of the venerable beat writers out there, saying, just go. He wrote an article that's basically, just go get Odell Beckham. Stop flirting, stop teasing, and just go do it. This is a good matchup. That's my first note. Good matchup.
Yes.
Good matchup. And it's the disparate elements of these teams that kind of match up, right? The Vikings and Cowboys both have good edge rushers. They can get pressure on the quarterback. They've got good gambling players in the secondary, but their defense isn't necessarily stout or a shutdown defense. On offense, they have good conservative quarterbacks. They've got players. You got CeeDee Lamb, you got Justin Jefferson who can take over a game. Of course, you got these players in the backfield that can put their stamp on the game, Dalvin Cook and Tony Pollard. The offensive line, Minnesota's has really come around this year. Cowboys have outperformed our expectations after there were a lot of worries coming into the season with injuries. Absolutely, these are both teams that should be entertaining the thoughts of winning the Super Bowl. So from a fantasy standpoint, it's going to be pretty straightforward. Dak Prescott, he's a quarterback one. CeeDee Lamb finally gave us one of those true ceiling games last week in Green Bay. You keep playing Dalton Schultz. He looks like a top 5, top 6 fantasy tight end from here on out. I don't care if Ezekiel Elliott is playing. You're going to keep Tony Pollard in. You're going to keep Tony Pollard in until he stubs his toe twice in a row and hurts your lineup. I don't think that's going to happen. So Tony Pollard stays in. Ezekiel Elliott is more of a what the heck flex in his first week back. Maybe Dallas did learn something having him play through that knee injury last year, though. And we'll see. And you're right, see, to flip that on its head and say, hey, if Dallas goes to Minnesota and can't win this game, maybe it's San Francisco and Washington breathing down their neck and to push them out of playoff picture. You know, I see these features they have now, sees with percentage possibility of making the playoffs. And I would love to see it plotted out week to week to see how it goes up and down, like win probability within a game, because it's not static. And I think whatever we thought about Dallas, they're one of the good teams. They've got balance. When Dak Prescott gets back there, and it'd be even better. We're to that part of the season where the margin of error gets smaller and smaller. And Dallas, because they have Mike McCarthy, that's the other thing looming over this team, right? Mike McCarthy goes back to Green Bay, finds a way to lose. I think it was the first time in some ridiculous number of games that the Cowboys were up 2 touchdowns going into the fourth quarter and lost. So you got to shrug that off. And you have a Minnesota team right now. They feel invincible.
Yeah, you said breathing down the neck, and then I was like, or Kirk Cousins breathing on your neck. That's what's happening with Vikings fans right now. You're like, oh,
personal space.
That's a little tingle there. All right, there we go, buddy. The Vikings side, super exciting because you're like, okay, everybody we already know, right? And the TJ Hawkinson edition, an in-division trade, which is still weird, but like, okay, this stuff's working. They're at home, they're feeling it. This is a good team coming in Dallas. Like, it's time for those big guys to show up, and well, you should have trust that those Vikings players you normally trust will do that.
Yeah, can you believe it, Cease? Can you believe that it's almost Thanksgiving? So I'm remembering that the great Randy Moss rookie year game in Irving on Thanksgiving. Remember that one? I actually was at that game. I was like at the 7th row in that one. Can you believe that the Vikings have another receiver who can take over a game like that? They do. I mean, if you had said they will never have a receiver that can do what Randy Moss, well, wait long enough, and there comes another. Justin Jefferson, who can just put his own, he can say, I'm going to make this game turn out differently because I'm in it. And it was something to behold. And what was really interesting looking back on that Minnesota Buffalo game, Cease, I think we mentioned this in the preview. Those are probably the 2 most snake bit franchises in the NFL, right?
Yes.
I mean, those are, so for that game to go that way, wow. I mean, I guess that's what happens, right? When you get 2 of the most snake bit franchises in the NFL, misery. I mean, they all have plays and incidents that have names where you just have to mention it, wide right in 13 seconds and Gary Anderson and all this different stuff. And it was like being at the center of an atom smasher or something where you put these 2 things together when both teams are peaking in a season, and this is what you get. So Minnesota now has to feel like maybe things can change. How do you follow that? How do you like that? How do you follow that? Well, more of the same, right? Dalvin Cook breaking a big play. Justin Jefferson, ain't nobody that can cover him. Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne. These are guys are odd men out because you have TJ Hawkinson regulating things. And TJ Hawkinson is a player that's going to keep this offense on schedule, and he's the clear second option now. I think what I mentioned here is that I think they've done a pretty good job. See, you remember what was it, week 3, week 4 when Dalvin Cook hurt his shoulder? We're like, oh, here we go. Dalvin Cook shoulders. They're held together with a rubber band.
Started scooping up Ty Chandler.
Right. Who's it going to be? Who's the 3rd string running back? And they've actually paced him and paced his usage so that you get these big plays, even on days when the running game isn't on track. You get these big plays. That was the one that helped turn the game around last week. He still seems fresh. He doesn't seem worn out. He's not coming into the game on the injury report. He's not limited in practice. So good on you, Vikings. And I think we can say maybe even more of a surprise than the Giants being a playoff contender is that you have to say that the Vikings now are a legitimate Super Bowl contender.
Yes, legitimate Super Bowl contender. We are here for it. Why don't more teams figure that out with their backs? Yeah. Why didn't Tennessee keep Deontay Foreman?
Right.
So that you could mix it in with Henry. Why doesn't Indianapolis have an option besides Jonathan Taylor? Like, I'm all for the bell cow. I love the bell cow, cowbell, whatever I'm supposed to say. Like, It always made sense to use Alexander Madison more.
It's a stepping back, okay? Because we've already covered these games, so I don't want to go back to these games. But this is going to be a really interesting week for the idea about how important is the running game, right?
Mm-hmm.
What did we see Monday night? Washington was able to beat Philadelphia by having a running game that could put together long drives, keep the defense on the field, keep the offense on the sidelines. So you're going to see Buffalo go up against Cleveland. What does Cleveland have? A running game that can keep your offense on the sidelines. You're going to see Philadelphia going against Indy. What does Indy have? A running game that can keep your offense on the sidelines. Then you have teams like Kansas City, teams like Buffalo that just don't have that mode in their offense. They don't have the personnel for it. So I think you're going to see something. Maybe this is when the motor boaters come back, right? This is whenever teams start to realize, like, hey, having a guy who can take that punishment, and even if it's just getting you into 3rd and 2, that has great value, and maybe has the most value when you're playing teams that is have that adage, the best offense is a good defense, right? The best defense is a good running game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hope so. It's Cincinnati and it is Pittsburgh up next here on part 2 of the week 11 preview on the Audible. And the Bengals side is like, start your T. Higgins, start your Joe Mixon. Samaje Perine, is he my sleeper of the week, Bloom? He possibly could be. So everyone stay tuned for that as I get sing-songy. What are you doing with Tyler Boyd, Hayden Hurst, and the other Bengals that you might be considering against Blitzburg at home?
Yeah. This is going to be interesting because the Steelers season is over, but it's Mike Tomlin. So you're not going to see the Steelers roll over. The Bengals are a team, again, when you look at the playoff picture, I believe they're not in the playoffs as of today. I believe that. I could be wrong about that. But the point is they don't have margin of error. They looking down the rest of their schedule, coming off of the bye, they shouldn't feel like, oh, they can afford to lose one here and there. No, you can't. Partially because you lost one of the Steelers to open the season. One that the Steelers tried to lose as many ways as they could, but somehow won. So what you had here for the Cincinnati offense is coming into the bye, Joe Mixon game, and getting the running game on track. Thanks, Carolina. And this was a problem, right? Cleveland, without Jamar Chase out there, Cleveland made this offense look very limited. Now Joe Mixon, and also with the bye, you have balance. Steelers defense is going to be a game competitor here, but offensive lines coming along, running games coming along, all these things we couldn't say going into the first matchup, right? They just left. This was whenever we were worried about Joe Burrow taking too many hits again. So I think that you're going to see a more balanced offense. Mixon, Higgins, you're not going to see Jamar Chase yet, but there's some hope maybe in week 12. Tyler Boyd coming back to Pittsburgh, even Hayden Hurst, because it's that bad at tight end. And we'll see. I mean, divisional matchup, the Steelers would love nothing more than to spoil the Bengals season by sweeping them.
Sweep the leg. Steelers side. Najee Harris banged up. More Jalen Warren, maybe. What are you doing with Kenny Pickett, George Pickens, the Pickens, Deontay Johnson? Please do something. And, of course, the Muth. Pat Freiermuth there as well. So, yes, the Steelers season is over. They're not going anywhere. But going up against the Bengals could be your, I don't want to say Super Bowl, but, playoff atmosphere in Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah. Well, again, a team that was a drive from winning the Super Bowl and you can sweep them the next year. That's pretty sweet. That's something you rally around. For the Steelers offense, I think they got a formula last week, more running, but like you said, Najee Harris knee discomfort. Maybe we'll see some more Jalen Warren. I think we're going to see as much running as the game script allows, and the defense has to do their part. But Kenny Pickett, he's still a what the heck quarterback. If you had to pick him on the waiver wire to replace Tom Brady or Geno Smith or Tua Tagovailoa, you could do worse because at least he's running. He's being safer with the ball, very similar to what's going on with Zach Wilson and the Jets. So that makes George Pickens, who at least got a touchdown as a runner last week, Deontay Johnson. Pat Freiermuth, you're going to play. You're going to play because, again, tight end's so bad, but you're lowering expectations for all these players unless you think the Steelers fall behind big at home and he has to throw the ball 40 or 45 times. I do not expect that. So the Steelers are going to try to get the ball control offense going. And I guess we could say the Steelers want to have a similar run to what Washington's doing. You win with opportunistic defense. You win with a grinded out running game. You win with physicality. You win with spirit. You win with a quarterback who maybe isn't that good, but can make a few plays when you need it. Unfortunately, you spent a first round pick on that quarterback. It's a show for the offseason. For right now, this game, well, if you can't watch Dallas, Minnesota, this should still be a pretty entertaining game.
You just want to be a tough out, right?
Yeah.
You want to be a team like when the other team faces you, like, oh God, man, we hated playing you guys. Like, even though you're not good, you're still a tough out. Now, Bloom, this is what we call a callback. Earlier in the show, you're talking about teams like who is the favorite, who is there. And I said, it's actually better to be under the radar. And I mentioned the Chiefs, although they're not under the radar. Chargers are. Guess what the Chargers are doing? They're getting healthy.
Yeah.
They're getting healthy. Now, are they getting healthy at the right time? Like, okay, we'll see. We're watching the practice status of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, of course, but we'll get to the Chargers side in a little bit. But it's Chiefs and it's Chargers. It is Sunday Night Football. It is AFC West action and the Chiefs side. Now, Isaiah Pacheco has a little bit of a quad thing. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, did you cue the Chuck D on him? I know I did. Actually, I'd never drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire because I love Pacheco that much. But either way, they're not running. They don't need to run with Jet McKinnon or anybody. It's just Mahomes to everybody. But while KC's guys, while the Chargers guys are seeming to get healthier, and we're watching those reports, the KC guys, what is it? Everybody was on the injury report, right? Just Juju, McColl, Valdez-Scantling. They're all on the injury report. So we'll watch it. It's Sunday night, but it's Chiefs and it's Chargers. Should be a good one.
It should be. And like you said, for the Chargers, this is a staying alive game. But again, this season more than any, if you make it into the playoffs, you make it into the tournament, anything can happen. And if you can beat Kansas City, then anything can happen. Now for Kansas City, it's about that running game. And it's the Chargers, right? So isn't this an interesting personality test for the team? Because there's always a lot of good talk. Like, what's more important? Scheming to your strength in a one-off game plan or scheming to the weakness of the defense? This is why Byron Leftwich said we want to be multiple. Well, Tampa's not very multiple. Sorry, Byron. Kansas City's not very multiple, hasn't shown the ability to be multiple, but we did see Isaiah Pacheco in a game that was a bit of a cakewalk for them last week. Have 16 for 82. They stuck with him through a fumble. So Andy Reid, does he see this? That you do need to have a hammer, that you do need to have a ball control offense. You do need to be able to salt a game away, and you're facing the Chargers. Hey, if they don't try to establish Isaiah Pacheco in this game, then let's forget it. It's just not going to happen because it's rational to do that also with all those injuries that they have. But Mahomes is cruising. Kelce, how is it? Here's a magic trick. How does Travis Kelce's value get higher in a way that's totally unrelated to him? Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert. I mean, if Mark Andrews gets hurt again, Mark Andrews, we're not even sure he's healthy, right? That's what we led with.
Right.
I mean, maybe like it's Travis Kelce and then everybody else at tight end. We'll watch Clyde Edwards-Helaire just to see if he's worth carrying. If the Chargers can keep this game close, then it's more of a Jerick McKinnon game. He's the passing game back. But I think this game's going to be about Kadarius Toney. I think this is your Kadarius Toney puts his stamp on this offense, and you can't put that genie back in the bottle. And Cease, it makes me want to sing, "It never rains in Southern California." Tony. And it's not going to rain this game because it's indoors.
Tony has done it again. Chargers side. That is such a dated reference, but it's still a good one.
Hey, Raphael Sadiq, he's the truth, man. There's a lot of people that don't know. He's a musical genius.
Yeah, exactly. Expand your mind. Open up your mind, Craig. Chargers side. We're waiting to see who's healthy. We're just starting Austin Eckler, of course. And you're waiting to see who healthy is at wide receiver and a tight end for the Chargers. So that complicates things. If you're planning on starting our cover athlete for part 2 of the week 11 preview, it is Justin Herbert.
Yeah. I mean, Herbert's going to have to do this. Is okay, Justin, what can you do for us? Can you hang with Patrick Mahomes? So he's a solid play this week, but still nothing like what we expected when he was going in the top 5 of drafts. Obviously, if one or both of Keenan Allen, Mike Williams are back, that's going to help Herbert. I think Mike Williams, if he's out there, you play him. Allen, you have a little more hesitation because we already had some false starts with him getting back on the field, or he's going to be available and then he barely plays. So Allen, we might want to see him get through a game healthy and produce before we trust him. But if he's supposed to play, that's better for Herbert. It's better for this offense. Obviously, you're going to play Austin Eckler. And hey, wouldn't Josh Palmer and DeAndre Carter be better assets for this offense in more secondary roles?
Yes.
Than if when you're asking Palmer to beat a number one no. Now Palmer's a number 3 receiver. Now you can do some damage.
And think of how that'll benefit him down the road. When Allen and Williams are healthy, and Palmer's had that experience, Carter's had that experience. So it's a good thing, but you want them more as the auxiliary guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I have Gerald Everett. I think got a limited practice in. He's a little banged up. And Trey McKitty. Remember Trey McKitty?
Mm-hmm.
McKitty was one of those tight ends, Florida State, I think. Right?
Kitty gang.
Mm-hmm. Kitty gang. I said, here, McKitty, kitty. Highly athletic. So we see these tight ends that are kind of like moldable lumps of clay in whatever their college team did with them. The pro team, when they take him in the 3rd round, that's what McKitty was. He was a 3rd round pick. It means the Chargers probably had him as a 2nd round quality player, a future starter. Well, he might be a present starter, and tight end is so bad that if McKitty goes out there, and look at a doomsday scenario, right? Allen's not ready to play or gets hurt again. Mike Williams isn't ready to play or gets hurt again. Gerald Everett gets hurt. Now, McKitty all of a sudden is a primary target in this pass offense. So we'll watch that, but this is going to be an interesting game for both teams because I think if the Chargers can win this one, then they should feel like they can win every one from here on out.
There you go. And don't we start talking about Kitty Gang and Mr. Scamper shows up.
Yeah.
I love that. Look at that sad kitty, man. What was the quote you told me before the show? Like, time spent with cats is never wasted.
Never wasted. Sigmund Freud, yeah.
Mm-hmm. There you go. That's right. From one great Sigmund to another. To the final game we're going to talk about, part 2 of the Week 11 preview, and it is San Francisco. It is Arizona and the 49ers side, which is fun. It's really fun. I'm getting a lot of Brandon Ayuk questions this week, and I get it, right? You're going to have to rely on Jimmy Garoppolo. That's fine. But still, Ayuk in that consideration with Debo and Christian and Kittle, and even maybe Jimmy G. Maybe. And then we're going to watch the practice status and that's Saturday's status that means the most, of Elijah Mitchell, because that'll be interesting when they get him back, how they're going to use a committee, and they're going to manage and monitor McCaffrey's, touches. We just talked about that with Dalvin Cook. So it seems like Kyle Shanahan's getting that, and he's getting that with his new guy, Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, I think this could be a Christian McCaffrey showcase game. And again, San Francisco sees another one of these teams. Could miss the playoffs, could win the Super Bowl. So here's your range of outcomes. But be honest, right? Can this San Francisco team win the Super Bowl? Well, the core of this team was a play away from winning the Super Bowl, right? Of course they can win the Super Bowl. This team was a couple plays away from going to the Super Bowl last year, and they could have beaten Cincinnati in the Super Bowl. Sure, they could have. So of course this team can win the Super Bowl, but you drop a game to Arizona on Monday night, that might be the difference between you eventually going to the playoffs or not. But you got this offense set up. Jimmy Garoppolo to Brandon Ayuk, Jimmy Garoppolo to Christian McCaffrey. And Garoppolo is a high floor, not an exciting play, but a safe play, a quarterback to cover a bye. You still got to keep playing Deebo Samuel. They actually gave him 4 carries. He looks good. He looks fine. He might not get the targets because, well, at least last week we saw if the team controls the game. And again, it was against the Chargers, so you don't have this game plan specific with Elijah Mitchell getting those 18 carries. But then they're not going to have Garoppolo throw the ball very often. So you do have low floor warning for George Kittle, for Deebo Samuel, for Brandon Ayuk. But you got to keep playing those guys. And Mitchell, what the heck flex? And you're just watching to see if in a different matchup, a team with different weaknesses on defense, that maybe he's not used quite as much. I know that McCaffrey's going to. It's McCaffrey. Pause this if you're listening to it right now, and go to your leagues where you don't have Christian McCaffrey, and just put out an offer. Just see if you can take advantage of this. Oh, we want to have them both out there. By
Elijah Mitchell.
You got Christian McCaffrey. You're not going to end up with him on the field about half the time. He's Christian McCaffrey.
Yes, it's Christian McCaffrey against Vance Joseph. I know. The Cardinals defense, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. I actually had Cardinals fans chirping me because I was making fun of VJ about a month ago, and Cardinals fans were chirping. And I was like, huh? All right. More power to you. Is Kyler Murray's dad playing this week? I just want to make fun of that. It's like, dude, you're 30. Like, I don't know. I know he's not 30, but like, still, like, your dad really got to be involved in everything? Seriously? Okay, there's helicopter parents, and then there's taking it too far. Okay, James Conner, stay healthy, because if not, I got Keontae Ingram. Okay, love it. And then we should get Marquise Brown back this week. Yes. Latest reports. Again, Football Guys Newswire, available at footballguys.com. Yesterday, I was writing about the potential return of Marquise Brown. And what does that do in a week that you lost Zach Ertz? I wouldn't expect much from Trey McBride just yet. He was my number one tight end, Bloom, but as I've often said, he's Chris Cooley. He's spitting a cooler. He's an H-back. So, you know, I would be more excited about Isaiah Likely this week if he gets the whole start than I would Trey McBride. That's just me. Let's talk about Arizona and what they could possibly do on Monday night.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see Kyler Murray. We're seeing indications we're not going to see Kyler Murray, but that's okay. Colt McCoy had a knee issue. Let's watch this. It's the Monday night game, so we're recording this Thursday. Sorry. So we're going to start learning more about the days all run together. So we'll see, but this just know. And again, Cease, this is something enterprising. I say that the fantasy football space is oversaturated, Cease, but an enterprising person could just do a weekly feature on how much does the offense drop off if the quarterback gets hurt and ranking the 32, or maybe tiering them too, because this is actually one of the teams that you have the least amount of despair when the starter is out, because it's Colt McCoy. We saw it last week. So that's okay for DeAndre Hopkins. It's okay for Rondale Moore. We'll see about Marquise Brown. They have a week 13 bye. I think we have at least narrowed it down to this week or next week for Marquise Brown. I would say you're not going to play him in his first week back. And in his first week back, you're not going to make you shy away from Rondale Moore, who's really warming up right now. And they're even mixing him in, going inside, outside. Rondale Moore can make plays as an outside receiver now. They're seeing that. And now if you have these three, Cease, this is where it can get fun. Remember back in the day, it was so long ago, and they took Keyshawn Johnson and they took Hakeem Butler and Andy Isabella. Remember that was going to be the cavalry, right?
Right.
Give it a couple of years, and Cliff and Kyler and what they're going to do with these talents. Well, it took trades, not draft picks, except for Rondale Moore. But now you have an exciting possibility. And look, Arizona's another one of those teams. We're not used to them getting hot in November, December. But if they can, you put this team in the playoffs. They have a puncher's chance against anybody if they have a healthy Brown, Hopkins, and Moore that are interchangeable, right? That no matter what, you're going to deploy these three receivers. There's going to be a mismatch. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a sore spot. There's going to be some sort of thing that Kyler can take advantage of with this immense amount of talent. So whether or not Marquise Brown is back this week, that's a pretty exciting thing to look forward to, even though Zach Ertz isn't going to be out there. You also have James Conner. And I guess, since we saw him take 96% of the snaps last week, and he's going to be doing all the work in the backfield, I thought that's not wise. But they have a week 13 bye coming up. So maybe actually there's a method to the madness here, which is if Conner gets a little banged up, it's okay. He can recoup during the bye and be ready to carry the load. Certainly for your fantasy team, he's a running back too right now. But much like the Chargers, this is a last stand kind of game. And they're not going to be mathematically eliminated if they lose. But these are those kinds of games. Now we're to that part of the season, Cease, where there is that mortality, like we talked about in part one. And if you don't want to die, you got to win to live.
Win to live. Wait, that's on South Park, right? Win to live till you die, till you rise. I think Paul Stanley did that song. It was on one of the workouts. Was it the one where they played the World of Warcraft? Right.
Sounds right.
Right. You're about to get pwned. All right. You're about to get Sleeper of the Week. As we wrap up the show, it's our ever popular segment. We play the intro. You listen. We talk.
It's time for the Sleeper of the Week, powered by Sleeper.
Is Dave still in the chat room? People are like, hey, it's Dave Kluge, the voice of the Sleeper.
The velvety tones of Dave Kluge.
Sleeper of the Week. Presented by Sleeper.
You may have stumbled onto something good there instead of presented by Trojan. Wait, sorry, Joe.
Sorry, Joe Plus. Catch that on Sorry, Joe Plus. Sleeper of the Week, Samaje Perine. Speaking of motorboating, woo, Samaje Perine, get it done. Because, well, it can't all be mixing, right? Maybe it can. You never know. Against Pittsburgh, could be a lot. a lot more of Samaje Perine than you think. So he is my week 11 sleeper of the week. Bloom, you look over the matchups, you look over the lineups, you need some punch. Who's your week 11 sleeper of the week? And what the heck flex?
Yeah, the sleeper of the week is Nico Collins. And I think that the conversation about Nico Collins is going to change from sleeper, do you plug him in, to he's the new number one receiver for the Texans, and maybe they'll get a quarterback for him next year. Other what the heck flex plays at running back, and we are going to have to rely on some what the heck flex plays this week, I'm afraid. Again, I like Isaiah Pacheco, establish the run. I like both of the Jets backs, Gus Edwards, especially in a 0.5 PPR or non-PPR, even the Denver backs. This could be the one game when it's all, we'll give the Denver fans this game to remember the season by. Melvin Gordon, maybe even Latavius Murray, going a little bit deeper, Kyron Williams. Why not? You know, he's going to get more work, receptions out of the backfield. Matthew Stafford can dump the ball off to him. Jalen Warren with the Najee Harris knee issue. Absolutely. We'll see. Bengals fan extraordinaire and one of the great members of our community brought up that, hey, knee discomfort can turn into a scope, can turn into injured reserve. So we could see if that accelerates in this game. Jalen Warren's been looking good at wide receiver. Some other what the heck flex type picks. Alec Pierce. And here's the only reason I'm bringing up Alec Pierce. Terry McLaurin was able to have some success outside against Philadelphia's corners. And if Philadelphia is rationally coaching their defense, and they're saying first thing we have to do is take away Jonathan Taylor, then maybe that sets up some play action shot plays to Alec Pierce. Quez Watkins on the other side of that matchup, maybe Dallas Goedert being out. Maybe there's not a tight end, although Tyree Jackson, your wishes were granted, Cecil. Your wish, this wish at least. I had a conversation with Noah this morning. He said, you always wish for 3 more wishes. I'm like, the kids don't know that. That's good. That's good. If you get a wish, you always wish for 3 more wishes first. And then you can have an infinite number of wishes. You turn that wish into maybe Quez Watkins grants your wish with a deep touchdown here against Indy. Darius Slayton also in play for a long touchdown. You see the theme here. What the heck, Flex? Go deep.
Sergio Plus.
Hey,
phrasing.
it's not weird.
Are we still doing phrasing?
Steve, this is football. Is this where I say the taboo?
Football.
This is the taboo thing. I mean, it's football. We're talking about penetration. So into the backfield.
We're talking about bangers. All right. There you go.
Slobber knockers.
That's right. Okay. There we go.
Hat on a hat.
Wiggle. Hip wiggle. It's my
Sword
favorite
fights. Oh, wait,
term.
no.
Don't drop the soap, or do. Either way, it's only weird if you make it weird. Sorry, Joe. We're a little loopy today, Bloom, but I'm excited. You made me excited when you said Cobra Commander before the show, and I was like, ooh, I got something to show you.
Yeah.
And then I got my new Cobra, the enemy shirt, which is weird because, like, I can't stand snakes. I appreciate them in the ecosystem, right? Like the bull snakes around the house. I live on a mountain, everybody. So, like, I appreciate the bulls. Don't like the rattlers. But, man alive, my car's a snake because I drive a Shelby. I got a ton of Cobra gear. Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what
Cecil,
that says about me. Put me on the couch.
I think I'll say this, okay? It's time for us to stop regretting or having remorse for eating from the tree, the serpent, right? This is all it comes back to if you bring it back up, the serpent, right? Yeah, we ate from the tree. We're always going to eat from the tree. That's who we are. That's what we do. It's okay. Embrace that identity. Embrace that we're friends of the serpent.
We were given the choice. Anyway, all right. That is a wrap for today's program. Be safe. Be kind. Know that you're appreciated. Follow us on Twitter and all those YouTube things. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. He's Sigmund. I'm Cecil. We are the Audible. Everyone, thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.